The transformation from tadpole to frog is a marvel of nature, an evolution through deliberate, vital stages. Similarly, the transformation of the industry is vital as we move toward a more innovative and competitive Europe. Today we explore how safe and sustainable by design principles and smart substitution are reshaping European industry. So join me for an interview with our two glassmasters, René Korenromp from the Dutch Ministry of Infrastructure and Water Management and Otto Linher from the European Commission DG GROW. Just as glass can be melted and reshaped, so too can European industry in its reinvention. So let's explore what it takes to make that happen. Why is the transformation of the European industry for competitiveness and sustainability so essential?
Transformation is always necessary for industry. Like a cyclone on a mountain, you cannot stand still. You always need to reinvent new things so that you're the master of the economy. Certainly, in the situation that we have here in Europe, where we haven't had sufficient investments over many years, I think it is really now important to get back to the forefront. And why not do that on sustainability? I think this is always a subject that for us is important, and where we have specific knowledge, we just need to do it.
Okay, René?
Yes, I agree with Otto here, and especially the Netherlands, which is more or less my scope. Chemical industry is having hard times, and innovation should be at the core of it. High energy prices, but also circular economy are very important topics, and I think that safe and sustainable by design is at the core of that.
At the core. Otto, the European Parliament, in collaboration with the European Commission, is exploring the feasibility of substitution centers to accelerate the replacements of hazardous chemicals with safe alternatives across the EU. First question, what are the key reasons for this initiative and what is the envisioned role of these centers in substitution? And then, what is the current status?
Well, for the Commission, one of the problems that we're seeing is that we are facing problems with REACH authorization and restrictions. So, and in particular for industrial and technical uses where it's not that easy to regulate, and we see that now with the PFAS restriction. So here we need to find other ways also to make an active pull in terms of innovation. And well, we are seeing that we're having interesting examples where we can take inspiration. In Europe it's in sight, and there is, especially in Massachusetts, there's a very interesting initiative where companies are actually paying for the use of hazardous substances, and that is used to finance help for companies, in particular SMEs, in substitution. Now the Parliament has asked us to investigate the same thing. So what we are actually doing now is we're investing how could a similar system look in Europe. Of course, this will not work with taxes, that is not possible. And we also have to take into account that Europe is bigger than Massachusetts, so we need to work with local partners. So what we're doing is we're setting up a network of substitution and innovation hubs.
So you make the reference, Otto, to the Massachusetts Toxic Use Reduction Institute. And of course Europe is bigger, so would TURI be then one of the member states' substitution centers? Should we see it like that?
Well, I think TURI can be a partner in the work. Of course, we are working in a European framework, so we will have European partners, but of course you never work in isolation in an integrated world. So definitely we are very happy to get input and inspiration from TURI.
I was more referring to the size. I mean, Massachusetts is a state, maybe comparable to a member state. So in several member states, you would have then substitution centers and create a network. Is that the concept?
That's correct. We're actually investigating how we can do that most efficiently and effectively. And I think it's important that we're working in a very decentralized way. Which means that, yes, we need to have a certain thread that goes through the whole network, but at the same time we need to be flexible and integrate the initiatives as they are.
Okay, and potentially integrated in a member state initiative. René, that brings me to you. Several member states are exploring the establishment of a European innovation hub for SSbD, Safe and Sustainable by Design. Can you tell us more about this initiative and how it supports especially practical implementation and stakeholder collaboration?
Well, this initiative is from SPINE, and SPINE is an informal network of policymakers in different European member states, also in the Netherlands. And we are focusing on safe and sustainable by design. And at one point we wrote a position paper on what we think is needed in Europe to have SSbD higher on the agenda, on the political but also on the practical agenda. One of the topics that we addressed was a network based in the different member states, but also working together in Europe. And why is it important that I think we should lean on the national networks? Because in every member state, I learned that when we talked to other member states, the knowledge infrastructure, but also the industrial infrastructure is different. So you will have to work with how it is organized or is best organized in a member state. And I fully agree there with Otto on that we should work together, and a European umbrella might be useful, but we should not forget that every member state is different. And in the Netherlands, we are now working on a national hub. We haven't decided on the name because safe and sustainable by design and substitution and innovation seems to be, to me, a little bit long name. But so we're trying to establish such a hub. And we do that together with knowledge institutes, but also with industry.
Okay. For both innovation hubs and substitution centers, the concept is that in due time the apprentice becomes the master. What services and solutions from innovation hubs and substitution centers could be adopted by industry?
The apprentice to master applies to the substitution hub. So I think the substitution and innovation and SSbD hub starts with being an apprentice. And then hopefully grows to a master. So the services, I think, will also have to, well, grow in time. In the beginning, my idea is that we should focus on gathering knowledge and giving policy advice from these substitution, innovation and SSbD hubs. But later on it may grow, I don't know.
Okay, and Otto, what is your view on this?
Well, I think we're lucky that we're working with people who are well beyond the stage of apprentice. So I think industry is very well equipped to deal with innovation. I think what we want to do is to support, and support means that we're trying to link initiatives to help those who might not see the full picture, to get them to see what others are doing. So it's linking people and then exchanging ideas, innovation, information, making people work together. That alone can spark ideas. And well, then we're of course trying to look at the missing links or the things where indeed we can create the value added to create initiatives in Europe.
Yeah. Okay. And if I may add to that, many value chains don't stop at the border, especially relatively small country like the Netherlands. The value chain is often in many more member states. So we should work together between these national or regional hubs. And it's always good to have a kind of supervisor. I don't know if that is the correct word, but a coordinator.
Brussels is watching you.
Yes.
Hey, to be a jack of all trades, the right tools are needed to, as you say, spark real innovation. What tools and resources are available for companies to innovate and identify safer alternatives?
Well, there are so many tools, and maybe that is in itself a problem. There are many different types of life cycle analysis. We have the Park toolbox. We have Iris, who have developed tools. So there are many tools available, and I think what we need to do first is help companies to select the right tool for them in their situation. Besides that, we recently issued some other research to help companies, especially SMEs, to find their way with different EU regulations like the eco-design regulation and SSbD. How do these two fit together? One might also think of the Circular Economy Act. How does that fit with SSbD and with other regulations? So helping companies to find a kind of common ground between these different regulations. That's what our focus is at this moment. Yeah.
Okay, and Otto, tools for innovation and safe alternatives?
I think it's also very important that we link actually those tools to problems that we need to resolve. And I'm thinking about PFAS, for example, or chrome plating. So those were the things that kept us busy for quite some time. And here I think it's also important to establish concrete working groups that are looking at what can be done to substitute.
Otto, what is the role of the Commission in supporting innovation and enhancing competitiveness of European industry, particular, as you mentioned, SMEs?
Well, for SMEs, of course, we always need to have a framework, a regulatory framework which enables SMEs, and we all know that we need to simplify things. But in addition, of course, we also need to have a pull effect by promoting innovation with SMEs. We need to work with local partners, and I think we need to be aware that SMEs have a double role in that game. On the one hand, we need to understand that very often for SMEs it's particularly difficult to move from their existing way of producing to another way. And here we need to give them the vision, we need to give them the support to move, but we also need to be aware that SMEs are among the key innovators. They are startups, they have great ideas, and I think we need to give them also the safe space to develop those ideas, which is not always easy in between lots of big companies who have their interest. So also supporting them here can really help to get innovation and investment going.
Okay, and particularly for SMEs, EU regulations can be very complex and burdensome, highlighting a clear need for simplification. Industry voices have expressed concerns that substitution requirements may be integrated into existing EU chemical legislation. Is this a valid concern or is it fictional, like cappuccino assassino? That's a TikTok thing. It's an Italian brainrot character who strikes after dusk. For your information this week, every ChemCon TV cartoon features a cameo from an Italian brainrot character. So, going to the question, to be effective, should substitution planning be embedded with EU regulatory frameworks like REACH?
Well, I think it's obvious that we need to reduce administrative burden and complexity of legislation. So we should never add things that would really increase the complexity. I think the point is that sometimes it's very difficult to go and work with command and control legislation. And we're seeing that on PFAS, for example. And here we need also to think about alternatives that are not necessarily only voluntary. And this is basically what we were looking at. And one way to do that is, for example, to establish expert groups that could help to identify what is the state of the art of alternatives, to set a bit the threshold for the companies to follow, but not direct command and control legislation telling companies thou shalt do this or that.
Okay, thank you.
And there I think that the member states are very important. They can play a crucial role in assisting these SMEs. It depends very much on the SME, but sometimes they work locally, they work in their own language, English is too difficult, and others, they work internationally. Even very small companies can work not only in Europe but also beyond Europe. So there's you have to look at the SME and the topic at hand. But as I said, I think that member states can play an intermediate role here.
With the support of the EU, a classic wood-fired furnace for glassblowing has been substituted by an electrical, environmental, friendly alternative. So how is the Commission supporting innovation in safer and more sustainable alternatives? Are there financial incentives or other incentives planned to accelerate industry adoption?
Well, I think finance can be an issue, but don't expect the Commission to pay everything. I think there's of course, limits to what the Commission can finance, and I think it's also important not only to think about the Commission. I think there's member states, there's regions who can do quite a lot, and of course, I think the main financing always must come from industry. And there must be a perspective that whatever we are financing, that this is then eventually viable.
Yeah. Now, often in Massachusetts, the financial incentives were small, $20,000, led to a safer alternative. And these amounts, of course, also possible by member states, are making that next step. And I think it's very valuable then.
Yep. There's no doubt that direct funding can be an important incentive, but it's not enough. I think we have to think beyond that. I think it's also important to see how that ties in with regulation, ties in with what we want to achieve with regulation.
Okay. Any suggestions, René, for the beyond?
Yes, well, we work in the Netherlands from the idea that there will always be a group of companies that will lag behind. Regulation is, I think, quite in order there. Then there is always a small group that wants to go beyond because they believe in it. This week I visited a family-owned painting company, and they want to innovate, and they told me, we have time on our hands. We are the 4th generation, and the 5th generation is already working in our company, taking over later, and we invest in the future. So you have a group of companies that invest in the future. And then there is a majority probably of companies that look both ways and see how it goes. And those companies, and I formulate it like, I want this too. We need to make sure that these companies want it too. So how can you do that? You can show good examples. You can maybe provide a little financial options to help them innovate. There are many possibilities. So I have two things that I want to say, and one is I hope that companies realize that they have to switch to safe and sustainable. So that's one, and the other one is I want that too, and those two are the basic points from where I work.
Okay, thank you for the nice example on paint. Otto, can you also provide a personal anecdote when you saw the positive impact of substitution firsthand?
Well, when you put the question to me, I thought, okay, I know a lot of stories, but not really an anecdote. But then reflecting about it, I remember a situation when I was a ski instructor as a student, and I had a 4-year-old Swiss boy in a beginner's class, and he was looking up the mountain. He said, "Das kann ich nicht." That means I can't do that. And I think that's something that really impressed me, and I think it shows very well that you need to let's say, go step by step. And that's also something that I think we need now to do to get Europe out of the current situation. I think we need to work together, to learn from each other. I think like the boy needed to learn from the ski instructor, but also have his own creativity, of course, to master skiing. And I think the important thing is that we need to do it.
Final question. What are the next steps and immediate priorities for both DG GROW and member states in creating substitution centers and innovation hubs?
Well, what I explained earlier is that we in the Netherlands are now starting our own innovation, substitution and SSbD hub. We do that together. It's also because our minister thinks that innovation, especially taking out dangerous substances in consumer goods, is very important. He's very eager to support this idea. So that's the first step. And the first step is that together with other member states, we want to try and establish a network of these kinds of centers and support in that way the Commission in their activities. Yeah.
And what are the Commission's priorities?
Yeah, well, we of course need to finish our pilot project. I think we have done one very important step in getting clarity about how we want to design substitution hubs, substitution centers, and it's clear that we're now talking about a hybrid model, meaning that there will be a central secretariat, but that we're working with lots of hubs. And this has also been confirmed now in the Chemicals Industry Action Plan, where we have the announcement that we will set up this network of innovation and substitution hubs, and that is something that we now need to concretize. That means how are we going to work with partners? So we will need to establish the contact, the network, the center, and there we are very grateful for existing initiatives such as the ones René mentioned, and it's also clear that we will be working with you and with many other initiatives. And well, then of course we also need to think about financing, staffing, and where to situate basically our central point, to put it like that.
Otto and René, thank you for sharing your insights. Innovation and substitution can be mind-blowing. I don't have a crystal ball, but I'm optimistic that when industry is in dire need, they will be inventive and will invest in innovation to become both competitive and sustainable. Since, as glass shatters, you can create magnificent mosaics.